Hi, in this presentation from Lucas Vogir and Alexa Sirbu, at some point they are talking about storing animation inside an array. So this is something that I wanted to try, and I came up with a little prototype. It's heavily copied from the work of Michael Peterson, especially this tutorial here. So to start with, I have a grid and a little animation like this. Could be anything. So to start storing the animation, we need to do this inside a solver. So what I'm going to do is plug the grid, the static grid, which could be like the first frame in the first input, and then the animation itself in the second input. I'm going to dive inside, and first thing I need to deal with the first frame, previous frame dilemma. So I'm going to deal with it with a $ff equals 1. Okay. Then I need a VOP, an attribute VOP. So first input the grid, and second input the animation, like this. Animation, second input, and again in the attribute VOP. So to initialize the array, I need to bind and name it and specify the type. It's a vector array vector because we are going to store position, and then I will need to bind export it, so with the same name of course and same type, vector array vector. Okay. Now to populate an array, you need to append things inside. So like this. And what do we want to put inside? We want to populate it with the animation, which is in input 2. So I'm going to use import point attribute. So it's a vector 3. It is into second input, and this is the p attribute. So I'm going to populate the array with the p attribute of the animation. So, and this is done. This is all you need to do. Okay, go up one level. Now, here you have the array of position, and as you scroll, the array gets filled, gets populated with the position attribute. Okay, and this is doing so because we are inside a solver. So frame after frame, it gets filled. So to avoid scrolling in the timeline, we can just use a time shift like this. Yes. And I know that my animation lasts 120 frames. So I'm going to say to the time shift, okay, 120. Okay, so now my array is filled with the animation. Now what if I want to read it back? So I'm going to need another attribute VOP. So let's name thing before. So solver is store anim in array, and this one is going to be VOP, and is going to be read anim from array, like this. Okay, and how to do this? Dive inside the VOP and bind the anim array again. So it's a vector array again. And to read index by index an array, you need to get array element it. So this output a position, I plug it to position, and now if I scroll through the index, you see it plays the animation. Okay, so this is good. Now, what if I have a grid? I scatter some point, point. I make a copy 2 point, like this. So if I scroll, nothing happens. So what if I want to control each individual copy with an attribute? So I can play the animation with different values. So let's make a VOP, and I'm going to create an attribute to do this. So let's call this VOP, we're calling it mod, and we are going to put it here like this. We have a point, and what I'm going to do is get a vector to float, like this, and I want to have an animation coming from -z and across the z-axis. So to do this, I'm going to use a fit, like this, and I'm going to need 2 parameters. So first parameter will be position, like starting position. It's going to be a float, yes, and I duplicate it. Let's change the name to offset, and this will be my offset parameter to have a little gradient. Add, okay, add this to this one, these two together. Okay, so position into source minimum, and this one source maximum. And if I go up 1 level, let's say I want an offset of 5, this create some sort of gradient here. So I want to start at -10 in Z, okay, and I want to move every frame, so $T times 2, okay, like this. So now if I scroll the timeline, you see the parameter, the attribute is changing from black to white, from 0 to 1. Okay, and I go back inside my mod VOP, and I want to output this value into a bind export. So this 0 to 1 value, I'm going to export it to an attribute, and I'm going to call it mod, like modulate. Yes. So I want now to control all individual element with this mod attribute. So to do this, I need to make a for loop for each point. So it's a for each point loop. I am connect this. Okay. And now I am back to the same thing. It's the same. Okay. Now what I want to read this value, and I want this VOP, which read the anim from array, to get this value. So I'm inputting it into the input2 parameter. So to get it, first we know that in a for each point, once you are inside the loop, it deals with the points one by one, and each point have an index of 0. So to get my mod value, I'm going to use the import point attribute, it's a float, it's from the second input, and it's named mod. So I want this mod parameter, this mod attribute, sorry. And I need to specify, but I only want it from the point number 0, and it's an integer. And now, so I have this mod attribute, it's going from 0 to 1, so I need to fit range from 0 to 1 to my animation starts at 1 and ends at 120, and I'm going to do 190. Okay, and let's plug it to the index. Yes, now we'll go up, and what does it look like? Let's play it, and you see the mod attribute is driving the animation of each individual element. So it's working, it's nice, but the problem is it's a bit slow. So, and slow because it's inside a for each, and for each are nice but slow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this one, duplicate the copy to point. Okay, and I'm going to show you another method. So I'm connecting back the copy to point to its original state, like this. So nothing special, it doesn't work. Okay, and I'm going to create a connectivity, so that connectivity, it gives me an individual element to each connected element. So each read has a single attribute class. So I'm going to connect it here. Okay, and I want to read also the mod from the point. Remember, so this value I want to read it, so I'm connecting it to the second input. Okay, so if I go here and hit play, you see it doesn't work. So what I'm going to do, so here I have my mod attribute, and I'm going to remove this guy and replace it with bind, and I'm going to get my class attribute, which is an integer. And now if you look, you can see, oh, the animation is back. But it's at the center. So what I want is use this point position. You have a point here and add this point position to each one of the grid. So I'm going to bring back the position, and to do so, it's the same story. I'm going to import point attribute. So this time I want a vector. Yes, it's from the second input again, and its position. And I want to specify that I'm using the class, because the point number and the class attribute are corresponding. And I'm going to add the point position and the grid position. And when I connect it back to P, everybody is in place, except that it is much faster, really faster. So this is it. Thank you. Bye bye.